Welcome to the program. We begin this news hour in Lebanon, where Israel has launched its largest wave of attacks in years. This was the moment when an Israeli airstrike hit southern Lebanon, sending people running for cover. It's just one of numerous explosions in the area in just the past few hours. Israel has been warning civilians in Lebanon to move away from what it claims are places being used to store weapons used by Hezbollah. The military has been sending text messages, placing recorded calls and issuing warnings over the radio. It says it will bomb houses where it suspects weapons are being stored.
This is an advance warning for your own safety and the safety of your family. We advise civilians from Lebanese villages located in and next to buildings and areas used by Hezbollah for military purpose, such as those used to store weapons, to immediately move out of harm's way for their own safety.
We're covering this story from all sides. Imran Khan is in southern Lebanon, where Israeli airstrikes have been taking place. Dorsa Jabari will bring us the mood from the capital, Beirut. And from Amman, Zain Bazravi will tell us what the Israeli army is saying. And of course, we'll have the latest on Israeli attacks in Gaza with Tarek Abu Azoum. But we begin with this from Zaina Khoda, who is near the city of Tyre, where large explosions have been taking place this morning.
There's a lot of panic. As you can see, people are leaving the area because there's been another Israeli airstrike. These airstrikes have been happening since the early hours of the morning, in fact, in recent days. And we are very, very close to the southern city of Tyre. That is a very densely populated city, some 25 kilometers from the border. The feeling here is that the Israeli military wants to drive people out of southern Lebanon, causing another crisis that could be used as leverage against Hezbollah. We're not able to reach the site of the strike. There's a lot of chaos here. They are worried that there's going to be another strike. There's panic and chaos. We are very close to one of the most densely populated cities in the south of the country. This conflict is moving beyond the border, and this conflict is becoming more intense.
Let's go straight to Imran Khan, who is also in southern Lebanon, where the Israeli military have launched a wave of new attacks. And we saw Zaina Khoda there in Tyre after the aftermath of a strike just in the last hour or so. Israeli strikes have been increasing in southern Lebanon over the last few days. But as of this morning, it sounds like the situation has really intensified even further.
Well, just in the last 5 minutes alone, we just saw an airstrike just take place, perhaps a drone strike just over the ridgeline over there, where you can see perhaps the blackened cloud set against the white clouds that are up above is where it took place. That's actually the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon's base in front of it. It's quite far away from where that site is. And this has been happening since 6:30 a.m. At 6:30 a.m., I was woken up by the sound of at least 10 strikes going on around me. I actually witnessed one of them when I kind of rushed to my balcony. That continued across southern Lebanon. In that first wave, they said 150, the Israeli army said 150 strikes taken place. Then there was another wave around about 8:15 GMT. That was about 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. Now, the Israelis said that was another 150, bringing it up to 300. But they're still continuing. You see just in the background there, those strikes are still continuing. Now, the Lebanese are very, very concerned about this. The government has closed schools across southern Lebanon. Hospitals are now on high alert, and all non-essential surgery has been cancelled. And in fact, the UN peacekeepers are sending their families that are living in that base north across the Litani River.
And Imran, what are people saying about these text messages the Israelis have been sending to people to move away from areas where Hezbollah has weapons? I mean, the suggestion that most ordinary Lebanese people will have that knowledge of where Hezbollah's weapons are being kept is ludicrous, isn't it?
Not even Hezbollah units know where the other units' weapons are being kept. So Hezbollah is a very disciplined organization. But this wasn't just text messages. People have been getting phone calls. They've been getting phone calls on their mobile phones, on landlines. They've also, radio broadcasts have been hacked. And the warning is very, very stark. If you're inside or near a building used by Hezbollah to store weapons or combat equipment, you must evacuate the building and move away from it immediately. Anyone who is near Hezbollah elements or weapons is putting itself at risk. Well, most people don't know where those weapons are. They probably don't even know if they are anywhere near them. Also, you have to understand the power of these strikes. If they go into a civilian area, the blast radius is actually quite massive. So you may well get stuck, you may well be injured within that blast radius, and you're nowhere near a Hezbollah site.
And Imran, finally, if you can just briefly talk us through the area that's been affected by the Israeli strikes so far. I mean, we're talking about an area that is quite populated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very densely populated, but a lot of people have actually fled. Now, where I am in Ibn Saki, which is near the town of Mujayoun, there's only about 30% of people who are left there, but they are making an assessment every single day as to whether they should leave. That's happening across southern Lebanon. But now this war is being taken to places like the Tyre governorate. Now, that's where people were supposed to flee to. Now, if you're bombing what is supposedly a safe area, people are like, where do we go from here? It's echoes of Gaza once again. People are worried that if they leave here and they go to the Tyre governorate and that gets attacked, and it has been significantly and several times today, not the city itself, but areas around it, including Hosh, those are supposed to be the safe areas. So people are now very, very panicked. Add into that what I was reporting earlier about schools being closed, about hospitals stopping all non-essential surgery. Lebanon is very much gearing up for something to come in today and in the coming days that will precipitate at least a medical crisis.
OK, for now, thank you, Imran Khan, there for us in southern Lebanon. Let's cross over to Dorsa Jabari. She is in the capital of Lebanon, in Beirut. And as we were hearing there, Dorsa, from our correspondent Imran Khan, a lot of concern coming from the government there. The Lebanese Prime Minister has spoken. What exactly has he had to say?
Yes, the Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati has said during a cabinet meeting that this is now a war of extermination in every sense of the word, and a destructive plan that aims to destroy Lebanese villages and towns. And they called on the United Nations, the Security Council, and also countries that have influence over Israel to really pressure the government in Israel to stop this aggression. He said that he said that his government is working to stop this new Israeli war and avoid as much as possible falling into the unknown. His words come at a very, very tense time here. Over the past hour, we have heard from the Lebanese education minister, who says that they have taken the decision to close a number of schools, universities, and educational institutions in parts of Beirut, as well as in the southern suburbs of Beirut and in the Bekaa Valley, as well as in the south of Lebanon. So we have had people we know who have received phone calls from daycare centers and schools asking them to come and pick up their children. That is happening as we speak. At the same time, we also have heard from the information minister, who said that as part of the psychological war, his office also received a phone call asking them to evacuate the building by the Israeli AI-generated phone calls that they've been getting these messages. So he said, but they have not evacuated any government buildings. Their work continues as usual. And this is yet another escalation on the part of the Israelis to increase their psychological warfare against the Lebanese public.
Dorsa, to pick you up on that, I mean, that's quite a worrying point, isn't it? That the messages are going to people within Beirut, in the capital city. It's not just been happening in southern Lebanon. Is this just psychological warfare, or perhaps more than that? Could this be a real physical threat to the capital?
Well, if it is, people here are standing firm. A number of people we've spoken to just in various neighborhoods in Beirut say, first, they're not going anywhere, and they are not afraid of Israel, that this is not the first time that they are being confronted with the threat of war again with Israel, and that they will continue to stand their ground, that there is nothing Israel can do that will push the civilian population out of Beirut, at least. That's where we've been talking to most people. There is a sense here that things are certainly escalating, but this attempt by Israel to create a sense of panic among the general population is something that is not new to the Lebanese people, and that they're going to continue with their life as usual. But of course, they are worried about what is to come.
Okay, thank you for that. Dorsa Jabari there for us live in Beirut. We can speak now to Zain Basravi. He's live in Amman because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel. So, Zain, clearly an uptick of strikes this morning and attacks in southern Lebanon. What are you hearing about this from the Israelis?
Well, just in the last hour, the Israeli military has updated its figures. They've given updates about the airstrikes, the military activity they've been carrying out across the border into Lebanon this morning. They've said over 300 targets that they describe as Hezbollah targets were attacked in Lebanon. Dozens of targets were in villages scattered across the countryside, and they have been under attack. We've seen video showing plumes of smoke rising over the countryside, rising over villages and populated areas, and it's become all too common in the past few days. And along with these strikes, growing in number, growing in frequency, is a chorus of voices across the spectrum in Israel, from the military, from the government, including the foreign minister, the spokespeople, the defense minister, the president, the foreign minister, and they're all saying the same kind of thing. They are saying that this is out of self-defense. They are pushing the idea that Lebanese people are being made human shields by Hezbollah, by armed groups. And this is really what they're trying to sell. And all of this is part of trying to manufacture doubt about what is actually happening, about trying to paint what is essentially offensive military action being carried out by Israel into Lebanon and painting it as defensive, which we know is not the case. And we know simply with the scale of violence that what Israel is doing is disproportional. It is consistent with violations of international law. And it is what we have seen in the past in Gaza, in the West Bank, and now in communities across the border in Lebanon.
Zain, the worrying thing is we've seen this entire playbook from the Israelis before in Gaza to justify hitting civilians. It warns people to get out of the way via text messages, flyers, and so on. And then when it does hit civilians, it says Hamas, or in this case Hezbollah, is hiding behind the civilians. Are we about to see the same thing happen in Lebanon?
Well, that is really what is worrying. First of all, there is a bit of hypocrisy to this. The entire nation is technically people that are expected to join the ranks of the Israeli military. The Ministry of Defense of Israel is in the heart of Tel Aviv. So painting these areas with the brush of human shields, of saying every part of the country is a potential target because it's simply in a country where they have an armed group that they're trying to fight, is deeply worrying. And what Israel does, the playbook, as you say, is to send text messages, send calls, hack into technology, radio transmission, issue warnings that are essentially threats, followed up by pounding from the sky, and then go in with ground troops. We've seen this in Gaza, we've seen this in the West Bank, and that is what everyone is looking to now with serious concern that that is what could come next in Lebanon. Now, military officials have been asked whether that is the case. Some have been vague, others have said outright that that is not what is being planned at the moment. But we know what Israel says and does can deviate from moment to moment.
OK, thank you for that. Zain Basravi there for us in Amman. Let's bring in our defense editor, Alex Gatopoulos. Alex, good to see you. So let's go straight to that point that Zain made. Is a land incursion coming next? What exactly is Israel up to?
Well, and this is going to be the question. Israel didn't fare so well when they invaded Lebanon in 2006, which was primarily an air war. But what does Israel want to achieve? If you're trying to create a buffer zone and you want to push everybody back, your air force can operate with near impunity. Hezbollah has very little ability to be able to shoot down Israeli aircraft. And so they can conduct strike after strike after strike, as what we're seeing now. Over 300 targets have already been hit today alone, and that's going to continue. So they can almost achieve what they're going to achieve without going in. If they go in on the ground, then they're playing to Hezbollah's strengths, which are small unit tactics, snipers, ambushes, and the terrain also is rocky. It favors anyone defending it. And Israel is likely to get bogged down. And not only that, the buffer zone will just move further back because Hezbollah will still have the ability to be able to fire missiles at Israel, but just from further back. So how far in do you go as Israel? You could end up getting absolutely bogged down in some sort of quagmire, which they certainly don't want.
It does appear that Hezbollah has been forced into a corner here. What can it do? I mean, what is its ability to fight back at this point?
They have fired rockets at Israel already, and just now, and also drones. Now, how many of those have got through? Well, Israel's obviously been anticipating this, and they've moved up air defense units to the north to be able to anticipate any kind of retaliatory attack. Now, we could have involvement from Hezbollah's allies in this as well, possibly from Iraq, possibly from Yemen, but that would have to be a whole different level of organization. And as we've seen Hezbollah's organizational capabilities taking a hit, obviously, with this dramatic pager assassination attack, which injured thousands.
And what do you make of this latest strategy by the Israelis, sending text messages, phoning people, telling them to stay away from areas where Hezbollah has military weapons and so on? I mean, it sounds like we've seen this before in Gaza, but you don't think there's going to be a ground incursion. So what is the idea behind this?
I think it's unlikely. It could very well happen, but I think it would be less likely that they would do it. The text messages themselves, on the face of it, they're a warning. But it's also a targeting of fear in a way that you will receive a message saying we are going to bomb you and leave immediately, which is obviously going to instill tremendous fear in any civilian population. By the way, it's civilians who are receiving these messages. It's also, it's also a very good way to gather intelligence. The Israelis are very good at using AI military programs that will analyze traffic, analyze data, analyze movements of people running away, and just seeing what they're running away from, and can infer targets from that as well. So, and it's also about a legal get-out clause as well. We said, well, we warned you.
Absolutely. We've seen them do that in Gaza. OK, Thank you for that. Alex Gatopoulos, our defense editor.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.